In 1997, James Bond returned to the big screen with a new villain, a high-tech weapon, and plenty of thrills. This time, it's not just about saving the world, it's about stopping a media mogul from manipulating the news to start a global war. Get ready for Tomorrow Never Dies. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the 1997 Bond flick Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm excited to break down why this movie is often overlooked but still has some iconic moments and insane action. Let's get into it. Tomorrow Never Dies marks Pierce Brosnan's second outing as 007, following GoldenEye. Directed by Roger Spottiswoode, this film takes Bond into the world of mass media and global manipulation. A plot that's surprisingly timely, even decades after its release. So what's the story? Bond must stop media mogul Elliot Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, from using his media empire to trigger a war between the UK and China. Carver is a man so obsessed with control over global events, he's willing to sacrifice peace for ratings. Now, a Bond movie wouldn't be the same without a strong Bond girl. Enter Michelle Yeoh as Weiland, a Chinese spy who teams up with Bond to take down Carver. Yeoh brings a level of martial arts and charisma to the role that makes her a standout choice, not just a damsel in distress here. Honestly, she might just be one of my favorite Bond allies. Carver, played by Jonathan Pryce, is one of the more unique Bond villains. He's not your typical megalomaniac. Instead of a secret lair with lasers and traps, he's got a media empire and a satellite network at his disposal. His big plan: use his global reach to cause an international crisis that benefits his ratings. And, of course, no Bond film would be complete without some amazing gadgets. From an explosive pin to a remote-controlled car, Q's gadgets are more high-tech than ever. But my favorite, the BMW 750iL that Bond drives throughout the film is, packed with features that make for one of the coolest car chases in the series. Speaking of action, Tomorrow Never Dies delivers some classic Bond set pieces, including high-speed chases, gunfights, and that unforgettable helicopter battle. It's one of those films that doesn't let up, keeping you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. So, what works about this movie? First, the pacing is incredible. There is never a dull moment. Second, Brosnan continues to shine as Bond, balancing charm, danger, and vulnerability. And of course, the movie tackles themes of media influence, control, and the power of information relevant to today's world. Fun fact, the film was originally going to have a completely different storyline, with Bond facing off against a terrorist organization. But when the script was being developed, the filmmakers saw the rise of media moguls like Rupert Murdoch, and decided to update the villain's motivation to reflect this real-world threat. Now, not everything about Tomorrow Never Dies is perfect. Some critics point out that it's a bit predictable, and the pacing can feel a little rushed at times. But overall, it's a fun, high-octane Bond film that never takes itself too seriously. With the world teetering on the brink of World War III after the mysterious destruction of a British warship in international waters, Agent James Bond must find out who is pitting two of the world's superpowers against each other. And as Bond embarks on a life or death mission to expose the lunatic mastermind behind the dangerous scheme, Power, hungry media mogul Elliot Carver plans his next move. The expert manipulator always seems to be one step ahead of the competition. Now, the unstoppable MI6 agent has to dice with death to pull the plug on the megalomaniac's global media empire with the help of the unexpected allies. Of course, the team must succeed before Carver manages to engineer an irreversible world crisis. But as Carver's pressed thirst for blood, can Bond prevent the impending catastrophe in less than 48 hours? Mi-6 sends James Bond Pierce Brosnan, Agent 007, into the field to reconnoiter a terrorist arms bazaar on the Russian border. Despite M's insistence on letting 007 finish his reconnaissance, Royal Navy Admiral Roebuck Jeffrey Palmer orders the frigate HMS Chester to fire a harpoon missile at the bazaar. Bond then discovers two nuclear torpedoes mounted on an L-39 Albatross, and is forced to pilot the L-39 away seconds before the Bazaar is destroyed by the missile because the missile is out of range to be aborted. Media Baron Elliot Carver Jonathan Pryce starts his plans to use an encoder obtained at the Bazaar by his henchman, cyber terrorist Henry Gupta Ricky J, to provoke war between China and the UK. Weakening the GPS signal using the encoder, Gupta sends the frigate HMS Devonshire off course into Chinese occupied waters in the South China Sea, where Carver's stealth ship, commanded by Mr. Stamper GT's Otto, ambushes it, sinking it in the process, and steals one of its missiles, while shooting down a Chinese J-11 fighter jet investigating the scene, and killing off the Devonshire survivors with weaponry loaded with Chinese ammunition. The British Minister of Defence Julian Fellowes orders Roebuck to deploy the fleet to investigate the sinking of the frigate, and demands retaliation, leaving him only 48 hours to investigate its sinking and avert a war. Hugh Desmond Llewellyn, MI6's gadget master. Miss Moneypenny Samantha Bond, M's personal secretary. M. Judi Dench sends Bond to investigate Carver because MI6 became suspicious of him after he releases news articles about the crisis hours before the Vietnamese government had learned of it. Also, British station in Singapore picked a signal on the GPS frequencies coming from one of Carver's satellites. Bond travels to Hamburg to seduce Carver's wife, Paris Terry Hatcher, who is also an ex-girlfriend of Bond's from many years before, to get information that would help him enter Carver's newspaper headquarters. He defeats 3 of Stamper's men after Carver orders his men to take Bond away and make him uncomfortable, and cuts Carver off the air during the inaugural broadcast of his satellite network. Meanwhile, at Bond's hotel room, he and Paris reconcile. Carver had Paris followed. Later, Henry tells Carver that Bond is a Gov agent. The next day, she provides him with the information he needs to infiltrate Carver's newspaper factory to recover the GPS encoder. Carver then discovers the truth about Paris and Bond. Henry shows him a clip of both talking about old times at Carver's party and orders both of them killed. Bond goes to the newspaper factory and steals the encoder. While he is gone, Carver's assassin Dr. Kaufman Vincent Schiavelli kills Paris. After Bond returns to find Paris' body, Kaufman attempts to shoot him. Bond is able to kill Kaufman and escape in his remote-controlled BMW, protecting the encoder. At a U.S. Air Force base in Okinawa, where he meets Jack Wade Jodan Baker, CIA liaison, Bond learns that the encoder had been tampered with, which sent the Devonshire off course into Chinese waters without knowing it, and goes to the South China Sea to investigate the wreck, which was actually in Vietnamese waters. He and Weilin Michelle Yeoh, a Chinese Ministry of State security agent on the same case, explore the sunken ship and discover one of its cruise missiles missing. But after reaching the surface, they are captured by Stamper and taken to the CMGN Tower in Saigon. They soon escape. They were handcuffed together. They slide down a Carver poster that ran across the height of the building and then steal a motorcycle and ride it in tandem to get away from Carver's goons and decide to collaborate on the investigation. The two contact the Royal Navy and the People's Liberation Army Air Force to explain Carver's scheme. Carver plans to destroy the Chinese government with a stolen missile, allowing a Chinese general on Carver's payroll to step in and stop the war between Britain and China, both of which have waged a naval war. Once the conflict is over, Carver will be given exclusive broadcasting rights in China for the next century. Finding Carver's stealth ship, they figure the stealth ship was built by the Chinese general, working for Carver, and so must be hidden in a port controlled by him. They board it to prevent him from firing the missile at Beijing as it sails to position itself between the navies of China and Britain. During the attempt, Weilin is captured while planting bombs on Carver's ship, forcing Bond to devise a second plan. Bond captures Gupta to use as his own hostage, but Carver kills Gupta, claiming he has outlived his contract. Bond detonates an explosive that damages the ship, rendering it visible to the Chinese and British Navy's radars, and vulnerable to a subsequent Royal Navy attack. While Wai Lin disables the engines, she is recaptured by Stamper. Bond kills Carver with his own sea drill and attempts to destroy the warhead with detonators, but Stamper attacks him and sends a chained Wai Lin into the water. Bond traps Stamper in the missile firing mechanism and saves Wai Lin as the missile explodes, destroying the ship and killing Stamper. Bond and Wai Lin share a romantic moment in the middle of the wreckage as HMS Bedford searches for them. So, does Tomorrow Never Dies hold up as a classic? For me, it does. It's got action, a unique villain, and a solid performance from Brosnan. It's not the best Bond film, but it's definitely one of the most entertaining. If you're a Bond fan, or just in the mood for some intense spy action, this one's worth a rewatch. That's it for today's review. Let me know in the comments what you think of Tomorrow Never Dies. Did you love it? Or is it a little too much for you? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more Bond reviews and movie breakdowns. Until next time, I'm out.